President Trump will also be raring to talk about new developments in the Biden administration's attempts to take down the Obama-Biden administration's attempts to take down his presidency. The Director of Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, today released handwritten notes from former CIA Director John Brennen. This is explosive. Those notes were written after Brennan briefed President Obama about Hillary Clinton's plan to tie Mr. Trump to Russia. Ratcliffe also says Brennan referred the matter to fired FBI Director James Comey and former agent Peter Strzok for a potential investigation. The notes expose years of John Brennan's lies. He called the Trump-Russia investigation well-founded. He claimed the president's denial of Russian collusion was hogwash, and even said there was extensive evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. All the while, it is now documented, Brennan, Obama, Comey, Strzok, Obama, Biden, and others knew full well that the Trump-Russia narrative was a devious plot created and sponsored by none other than Hillary Clinton. We'll be talking to a man who knows about all things Obamagate tonight. Just the News founder and editor-in-chief John Solomon will join us later in the broadcast. Breaking news now. Ohio's Secretary of State apparently isn't concerned at all about the radical Dems' efforts to rig the 2020 election. Frank LaRose says a shift in Ohio's voting tallies after Election Day shouldn't bother Ohio citizens, and they shouldn't be taking it as any indication of anything nefarious, says the Ohio Secretary of State. He says it's just the system at work. Imagine that. Be prepared for a rigged election and a hijacked election. Thank you, Mr. Secretary of State in Ohio. The latest Trafalgar poll shows President Trump with a 4-point lead over China Joe in Ohio. Election officials in Virginia are concerned about 6 mailboxes that were tampered with over the weekend. The reported thefts occurred in the Richmond area. They stole the mail. They come during the 3rd week of early voting, by the way. In Virginia, where many are using the mail-in and absentee ballots, and of course, as you see there, availing themselves of what Nancy Pelosi calls Election Central. The U.S. Postal Service, of course, it's just comprised of some seven postal employee unions. The perfect neutral Election Central. Plus the News editor-in-chief John Solomon, author of Fallout, Nuclear Bribes, Russian Spies, and the Washington Lies that enriched the Clinton and Biden dynasties. We recommend it to you highly. John, it's great to have you here. Let's start with your reporting tonight. Let's start with actually John Ratcliffe and his release of these documents that for the first time put John Brennan right at the center of Obamagate, and our documentary evidence at the very least that Brennan briefed the President of the United States on the Clinton plot to create the Russian collusion attempt to overthrow the President of the United States. It's a remarkable revelation, and that it comes 30 days from the next election is a tragedy. We should have known this 2 years ago. But what does it tell us? It tells us that in July of 2016, the CIA intercepted information that the Russians overheard Hillary Clinton talking to a foreign policy advisor about stirring up, that's the word John Brennan uses, stirring up a bogus Russia collusion story to vilify, that's another word the CIA uses, Donald Trump, and to distract from all of her scandals, whether they were the emails or her own Russia scandal. And this was taken so credibly that the CIA director himself, John Brennen, briefed the president and wrote notes of what he told the president. And then they became concerned enough at the CIA
they went over and told the FBI they should investigate this in September. Now, here's the dirty secret to this. This is all scintillating. It's exciting. The FBI knew from the beginning this was a political dirty trick. How do we know that? On day one, when Christopher Steele walked in and said, ta-da, here's my dossier, he told his FBI handler, July 5th, 2016, I'm working for Hillary Clinton. They knew this was a Hillary Clinton dirty trick. How do we know? James Baker, the general counsel of the FBI, testified that multiple times FBI people were, inundated by Clinton people trying to peddle anti-Trump stuff, most of it false and inaccurate. The FBI knew this was a dirty trick. The CIA knew it was a dirty trick, and yet they persisted to carry out a 3-year investigation without any evidentiary basis.
And as if there weren't voluminous reasons for the cover-up. This means that a lot of people had to know that this was an absolute run at overthrowing the President of the United States. They had to understand that they were being called upon as intelligence officers, as FBI investigators, to try to block the election of a man who would ultimately win the presidency. This is it just compounds the outrage and makes me wonder, frankly, John, why is it taking William Barr and John Durham so long to bring charges? Because just on this evidence alone, there is sufficient cause, it would seem to me, to bring charges against them. And secondarily, there's certainly every reason with the Brennan notes to ask the president of the former president of the United States, what the hell did he know and when did he know it? Because this is the first documentary evidence that ties him directly to Obamagate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I
and think
wrong?
about what happens. By January of 2017, Barack Obama is instructing Comey, keep going after Clinton, put your best people on it. At that point, they knew there was no evidence. President Obama knew in July of 2016 Hillary Clinton had put this whole thing together as a dirty trick because John Brennan told it. And it's very important. The Democrats are going to counterattack this, saying this was Russian disinformation. That's all this is. The CIA has assessed that this information was not Russian disinformation. That's very important to understand. This was real. That's why they told the president. That's why they referred it to the FBI. And it is a travesty for the American people that their FBI, their CIA, carried out this political dirty trick with Hillary Clinton for nearly 3 years, hampering the beginning of the Trump presidency and trying to stop him from winning the election.
And we know if those who want to advance the idea that it was Russian disinformation, these notes are contemporaneous with the acts that were taken by these agencies, the CIA, the DNI, and the FBI, to overthrow the President of the United States after trying to block his election. So why would there be a delay on Durham's part to bring this element to the public's attention in the form of, I would think, first of all, an indictment, and failing an indictment before the election, certainly an interim report?
Yep, if he does not, and I'm increasingly believing he will not do something before the election, it will be a real tragedy for the American people. We deserve to know what happened in 2016. We learned from these notes today, the FBI recipient of the CIA referral saying Hillary Clinton's up to a dirty trick. It's Peter Strzok himself, the man running the investigation. And let's take on one other issue when you come to Russian disinformation. The only proven Russian disinformation in the entire Russia collusion story came from Hillary Clinton's operative, Christopher Steele. We now know the CIA believed that information in his dossier was Russian disinformation. The only perpetrator of Russian disinformation was the Hillary Clinton campaign and its foreign operative, Christopher Steele. We can't lose sight of that.
Right. Well, and I would only add the full disinformation campaign of the Democrats as they pursued any path to try to block the election of this president and then his agenda and overthrow him once he was in office. And obviously complicit in that Adam Schiff, Gerald Nadler leading committees at the forefront of the impeachment effort, and of course, the entire Justice Department is in question now because of the outrageous special counsel that had not a single evidence, any evidence whatsoever to proceed on. It's stunning. John, how does it feel to be? I'm sorry,
Lou. The Mueller probe looks more and more like a sham with every piece of evidence that comes out. There was no reason for it. It was as fake as the Steele dossier, and that's again, it's not only a sin against Donald Trump or an offense against Donald Trump. It's an offense against the entire American people. We didn't need to go through this 3 years of charade that we went through from 2016 to 2019.
And we know something will come of it. We just don't know when,
That's right,
or why it's being delayed, and that is another story in and of itself. John
That's
Solomon,
right,
always great work, and always great to see you here on the show. Thanks so much, John. Up next.